you guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I figured I would just sit down and just play with some drugstore makeup, and I am going to be using a few new products today in this video. So if you guys want to see how I came up with this look right here, then of course just keep watching. Alright you guys, so starting off, I'm going to take the Makeup Revolution Reloaded Visionary Eyeshadow Palette, which looked like this. I did feature this in my, I think it was like my eyeshadow palette like haul video, and I kind of figured I would just dive into it and just use it for my makeup look for today. So starting off, I never know what look I want to do. I just kind of go with the flow all the time. But we are going to take this really pretty color, which is right here, and just throw that into the crease. I'm gonna take the purple and put it down on my lid. So change your plans. All right, and then for my outer V, I'm gonna take this darker purple right here and just put it in my outer V. All right, and I'm gonna go back into that pink and just put it over my purple just to kind of give it like a different shift to it. Going into the Maybelline palette, I'm just gonna take my black and pop it into my outer V of my eyes as well. Alright you guys, so I do have a new product I want to try out. It's going to be by Smart Cover Cosmetic. This is going to be the Perfect Touch Camouflage Cream. It is a concealer, and here is what the product look like. This is supposed to work as far as like if you have any dark spots on your face to like spot correct, for your dark circles under your eyes, any zits, just anything like that where you want to like just correct. This is going to be the product that you can use. It does come in 4 shades. The 2 that I have in front of me is going to be Neutral Dark. Let me open up Neutral Dark for you so you can see what it looks like. Alright, so this is what Neutral Dark looks like. It's going to be the darkest one that they have. And then the next one is going to be Neutral Light, which is going to be the second to the lightest one. So Neutral Light. And then you also have Neutral Fair, and then you also have Neutral Medium, but they did send me Neutral Light and Neutral Dark. So I'm actually going to use this one because that other one is extremely too light for me. So I do want to take it and just kind of use it to see what happens. Alright, so once you warm it up with your finger, it definitely starts to feel more creamy. So I would suggest just kind of like warming the product up, because it definitely feels creamy once you begin to warm it up. So here's what it looks like now that I've kind of played with it a little bit. And I have it swatched on my hand right here. So I'm going to use it on my dark spots to just kind of see what happens. But I kind of feel like it's almost too light for me to use in terms of like dark spots per se. Because let me just try it. Like, see? That's too light, and this is going to be the darkest one for me. So yeah, that's not gonna work as far as covering up any dark spots. So I'm just gonna use it as an actual concealer and see what happens. So I'm just gonna apply my foundation first, and I'll be trying that product out under my eyes and just kind of see how it works. All right, so I do have my foundation on. The one that I use for my foundation is going to be the Maybelline Superstay. I am in the color called 340 Cappuccino. All right, so going back into the product is going to be the Perfect Touch Camouflage Cream. Again, it's a spot specific coverage concealer, but it's too light as far as for like spot concealing. And I do have the darkest shade, Neutral Dark. So I'm just going to try it under my eyes as an actual like under eye concealer and see what happens that way. All right, you guys, so I will say as far as the product goes, it's definitely easy to blend out. You don't have any problems there, and it does a nice job as far as like covering up your under eye area problems, and it's definitely creamy, I must say. I just kind of feel like as far as like spot correcting, you definitely cannot spot correct with it because the shade range it doesn't go deeper enough as far as like the shade range options, but I feel like for under eye it's definitely fine for that aspect. However, I feel like if you are darker than me in skin tone, you probably won't have a shade to utilize, because again, the one that I have is called Neutral Dark, and this is what it looks like. So for me, it worked as far as like my under eye concealer, but if I wanted to like spot correct with it, it's definitely too light for me. So keep that in mind. But it's easy to blend out. It does cover up like your imperfections very nicely, and it's super creamy. I kind of feel like if you have oily skin, you may or may not like it, but you may have to set it with a really good mattifying powder because of how creamy and consistency the texture is. So let me go ahead and set my face. All right, moving on into my next product is going to be by Sleek Cosmetic. It's going to be the Sleek Face Form Contouring and Blush Palette. Here is the packaging for it. I did get it at Ulta. It's in a color called Dark. You get a contour shade, and you also get 2 highlighters in here. Well, that's how I'm going to utilize it. But here is the actual contour shade, and then your highlighters are going to be down here on the end. Again, that's just how I'm going to use it. They call it a blush palette. However, I don't do shimmer blushes, so it's just going to be a highlighter on me. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the contour shade and use that as my bronzer for today. All right, you guys, go back into the palette from Sleek Cosmetic. I think I'm going to take this bronzy color right here. It's really pretty. Just going to apply it to the high points of my cheeks. Again, it's supposed to be a contour and blush palette, but I'm just going to use those last 2 as highlighters for my skin tone versus using it as a blush. All right, let's go into this one right here in the middle. All right, and then for my lips, I'm gonna take 3 lip products. I'm gonna take my MAC lip liner in Chestnut and just outline my lips. And then I'm gonna take, it's the Cake Collection by Rimmel London. It's number 46, which looks like this. And I love to pair this with a brown lip liner. It just wears better for my skin tone. Then I'm going to take the Makeup Revolution lip topper in the color called Exquisite and just top it over my lip. Alright you guys, this is pretty much the completed look. So I did go into the Pretty Poison palette to do the inner corner color because the one in this palette was not making it work for me. So just a quick roundup of everything that I used. Starting off with this palette, I must say I really had high hopes for this palette, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's a bad palette because it's really not a bad palette. I just kind of feel like it just didn't give me the oomph that I was looking for. The mattes in here are pretty good. They blended out really nicely, especially this color. I feel like this darker color right here, as far as it being the darkest color in the palette, it didn't really show up in my outer V. That's why I went into the black color in that Maybelline palette, because it wasn't like deep enough for me. And then the shimmer shades in here, I pretty much had to use my fingers because the brush was not picking up the product. So I feel like if you use your fingers to apply the eyeshadow, it definitely works that way, but I don't like to use my fingers to apply eyeshadows. I like to use my brush. So just kind of keep that in mind. But besides that, it's not a bad palette. I think it's one of those palettes where you have to just kind of put in the work for it. I must say, in compared to the Pretty Poison eyeshadow palette, I prefer this one so much more because I told you guys, if you watch my, I think it was my eyeshadow palette video, these are pretty similar in terms of like just being a purple eyeshadow palette. And I just kind of feel like I prefer this one more. And if I wanted to do like a purple eye look, I would probably reach for this palette more than I would reach for this one. So I kind of feel like if you want to get a purple eyeshadow palette and get something that's not as expensive as the Anastasia palette, I would probably get this one over this one. But this one, it's going to be a little bit cheaper, but you just gotta put in some work. But it's not a bad palette at all. So that's pretty much how I feel about that. In terms of the concealer by Smart Cover Cosmetics, I told you guys it's the Perfect Touch Camouflage Cream Concealer. It's supposed to be like a spot concealer per se. I told you guys, for me, I have the darkest shade, which is called Neutral Dark, and it's pretty much too light for my skin tone in terms of spot concealing. So I went ahead and used it under my eyes as an actual like concealer for like your under eye area, and I think it looks really nice. It's definitely going to be more of like a full coverage concealer. It blends out really nicely. It's a really creamy consistency, so I feel like you have to just warm the product up to get it to that nice creamy consistency and that nice creamy texture. Otherwise, it's going to feel really hard. If you do have oily skin, I would say to definitely set it with like a matte, like a mattifying powder under your eyes, because it's definitely creamy in consistency. And I know sometimes if you have oily skin, you don't really like products that's too oily in formula or consistency. I have dry skin, so I don't really mind because my skin is dry. But I'm just thinking in terms of if I had oily skin, how would that work? But I do think it's a nice product. If you are deeper than me in skin tone, it definitely wouldn't work for you because it's too light. And I told you guys this is what the darkest one looked like. So, and you guys see my skin complexion pretty much all the time when I film. So that's just pretty much where I stand with. I do have a discount code if you guys want to try the product out. It's called Perfect 10. I will have it in my description box down below for you guys to check out. But again, it's going to be by Smart Cover Cosmetics. Moving on to the palette from Sleek Cosmetics. I will say this color actually showed up against my skin tone. I was quite surprised. Every time I try out a new like bronzer or like contour product, I always make sure it's not going to be too dark or just like too intense in pigment. So that's why you guys always see me like turn my head and I just apply it very slowly. So I must say it does show up against my skin tone. This color right here, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with it, because when I applied it to my face as a highlighter, it did absolutely nothing for me. So I'm probably going to try it as a blush next time and see how that works. But I do like this color in the middle as an actual highlighter for my skin tone. I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be my favorite, because it's not. But I can apply it and then apply something else if I wanted to on top of it, which I pretty much did, because that one wasn't doing it for me, and then that by itself wasn't giving me the oomph that I wanted. So I think in terms of this palette, it wouldn't be something that I would repurchase, because I only honestly like one part of it versus the other two parts of it, and I really had high hopes for it. So it's not a palette I would probably recommend to you guys, because I'm not in love with it. Pretty much everything else that I use as far as like what's going to be new, because everything else I've already had in my collection. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like always, please be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.